Hey, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Playing our fourth match, I believe, of Pre-Innistrad Legacy up against Chris on Legacy Burn. So this is an interesting list. Obviously, you don't have access to Eidolon, which is a pretty huge card. You still have Goblin Guard as a creature, Grim Lovementer as removal and also just hate. And then Keldon Marauders, which is a card that some Pauper players might be familiar with. You then have a pretty stock list and a lot of 4-of, so this deck is going to be very consistent. Fire Blast, Rift Bolt, Searing Blade is great against us as a creature deck. Prize of Progress is pretty nice. We can play around it, but it can be pretty crucial. Lightning Bolt is pretty nice as well. Lava Spike and Chain Lightning. I think Maverick's favored. This hand does look okay. The canopy is a little bit awkward against a deck like Burn that is hyper aggressive. But a turn 1 play of Mum into a Knight, hopefully, and then having Jade in hand naturally is really nice. I'm going to keep this. The Pre-Innistrad community has been really nice. It's really cool to be playing against people that I would just consider friends, even though I haven't met them, which is cool. Alright, I think Guide into a land would be kind of nice. Fetch land's being played in this deck because of cards like Grim Lovementer. You want to fill that bin and get it going, and that's the card of choice. So Screws is actually nice as well, because in the late game it means that I can start eating up my creatures and gaining back some life. So I am just going to take a pain here and go for a turn 1 Mum. It means that this Grim kind of has to answer it, unless they have something like Searing Blaze in the opening hand. Yeah, okay. Not too bad for us. See what else they have. Maybe a Rift Bolt. Rift Bolt, okay. This is an interesting spot, and I feel like I don't mind just going for Green Suns for Noble Hierarch here. It allows us to build out our mana, and it also means that I'm not playing the Ooze. I do want to be particularly patient with this to see if I can play it as a 4/4. So I'm just going to try to build up my mana here. Knight, also a card that I probably want to be a little bit creative with, because I probably want to play it as a 4/4. And I can do something, if this Noble Hierarch survives, I can wasteland my own land to make it a 4/4, which is kind of cool. But we'll see if we get there. I think my best play for my opponent is like land into Goblin Guide and then Searing Blaze on the Noble Hierarch to get really aggressive. But we will have to see. Chain me. Kill the Hierarch, okay. Maze. Not really the card that I want here. I don't like playing the Knight out. The Screws is interesting. And the Mind Sensor means I can maybe get them. So I could play a land and pass, and then end step play the Mind Sensor, untap, draw into a land, cast a Jade, attack with the Jade. I'm definitely playing the Wasteland. The nice thing is if I wait a turn and draw a green source, I can play the Ooze and make it a 4/4. So I think here it is just going to be the Mind Sensor play. The other creatures I don't really want to throw away as just 2/2s. And with the canopy, it's a little bit awkward with gaining life with Ooze. It kind of just you lose a life, you gain a life. It comes out. Kedra Marauders is going to be okay. See if my opponent goes for a fetch. They aren't. Interesting. Another Mum. Okay. This is a little bit awkward because at least if it was a land, I could play the Knight and hold up Wasteland to keep the Knight as a 4/4. I'm going to play the Maze still. I'm going to attack with the Mind Sensor and then probably just untap it and play the Mum. So after dealing damage here, we can actually untap the Aven, which is nice. To be fair, it's probably correct to keep it for the Kedron because I'm probably not blocking this. My opponent didn't fetch. Oh, they're gonna Fire Blast me. Okay. Yikes. Put me down to 3 and then. Yeah. It's a really good start for my opponent. So if it leaves the battlefield, I just take damage anyway, so I might as well just block and chump. Just a pass. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's something. I could attack with the Mum into the Grim, but that doesn't really achieve anything. I don't really want to tap the Wasteland here for the Scoos because of price of progress, but I don't think I can really play around it anyway. I just lose to price because I played this. I mean, I can draw a card with the Canopy, but then I still have extra land, so yeah, that's just game. I think it's just the Canonists and maybe the Path. I don't like the Mind Sensors. I'm going to drop a Scrib Ranger as well. The Thalia Pride Mages are interesting, but looking at their list, I'm not sure if they actually run like Sulfuric Vortex. Okay, they do. So maybe it is in keeping at least, you know, 1 or 2 in. I'm not a big fan of the Maze, but it can buy some good amount of time. I don't mind just changing like this. The Sylvan Library can probably come out as well, so I don't mind bringing in the Tutor. It is card disadvantage, but I think because I'm finding cards like Jide or Canonist, it could be pretty good. So we'll see how this goes. I like the extra Path as well because it allows me to save a Swords, or at least be a little bit more mindful of using my Swords on my own creatures to stay alive, because, you know, gaining 12 off a Knight of the Reliquary is pretty nice. I'm going to side like this. Really want a probably a mana Dork start with some basic lands. Close. I don't mind keeping this. It has a you know, a turn 1 Dryad Arbor, which is kind of cool. Into a turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic with Path up. I'm just going to get a basic here as well. The downside of getting a basic means that I can't Stoneforge and Path in the same turn. But I think that's okay to play around price a little bit. We also have the second white coming up anyway, so. My opponent probably thinking what they want to do, if they want to attack with a creature, play a Grim, bolt the bird in a way by hitting the Dryad Arbor and take me off a bit of mana. I think I'm happy going for Batterskull with the Stoneforge Mystic, even though my opponent has most likely brought in Smash to Smithereens. I'd probably rather the Batterskull go early than a Jide. Jide is just a little bit better because it can interact with their creatures as well. And it can also be a pretty good clock for us if we want to pump our own creatures. They're going to bolt the bird, okay. That's actually pretty nice because it makes this knight a 4/4. Another bolt. Wow, that's it? Okay. Well, I'm very happy to play this knight now. Second Stoneforge is also interesting, but I do like getting this knight online. Grim's gonna be okay. They're going to fetch now, which is interesting. Riftbolt, sure. Scribranger is very interesting. There's probably a line here with Cradle that's quite nice. So I can play the Scribranger. I can return the forest and then play it, which means I can actually attack with the knight first, and then untap it with Scribranger. Play Scrib. Untap this. Return Savannah. Play Savannah. Play Ooze. I'm gonna get rid of the Savannah just because of price. Get Cradle. Eat 1. Eat 2, and then I might just go after a bolt because I can. I mean, if the Riftbolt and the Grim want to go after the Skoos, that's more than fine. The Skoos doesn't have any more creatures in the bin currently, so the Bolt going to face does seem like the best option just to keep going at face. Because the Skoos is only scary if you're afraid of removal, and looking at my list, I do only have really ways to exile creatures. So other than Jide and Combat Math and blockers, there aren't great ways to put creatures into the bin. So I could definitely see the Bolt either going after the Scribranger to stop any shenanigans, or go after me. So this is going to be interesting. I mean, there's also a case of going after the Knight, as that's a pretty big issue. And they are going to go after the Knight. That's interesting. I don't have a way of doing shenanigans here because to untap it with Scrib Ranger, I have to return my only forest to hand, so then I won't have a card to deal with it. But it's interesting that this is now going to grow the ooze even more, which is kind of nice. I guess my opponent could have like Fire Blast and something else, but it's definitely a tough spot. Windswept Heath is kind of nice. I kind of want to get the Batterskull out this turn. And I can do that without playing the Windswept Heath. But I kind of want to just keep the cards that I have in play. I'm probably happy to eat the knight and attack. I'm going to play the Windswept Heath. I'm going to crack it for a Plains. And then I can go after their graveyard if I really want to kind of turn off the Grim Lavamancers, which I don't mind. Gonna go get Jide. And then just now I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna eat both because a fetch can really change things. What I meant by that was that if I leave one thing in the bin and they play a fetch land, then it's a little bit awkward because if they fetch the land as a as part of the cost is sacrificed and put it into the graveyard, which means my opponent could easily activate a Grim Lavamancer in response. It looks like my opponent is just keeping up maybe Smash to Smithereens, which is very interesting. Being an 18 life on turn 5 is really nice. So although I am a little bit, you know, reliant on the Scavenging Ooze to take me to victory, obviously my opponent, you know, kept a 1-lander, had a 1-lander for a few turns, and then we were able to just build out, thankfully due to that, and get some things online. I don't think I want to change anything up. Yeah, like Linval is interesting because it does turn off Grim, but that's about it. You know, same thing with Tormod's Crypt, not really worth it. I'm happy just to submit the same list. I do think this is generally a pretty solid matchup for Maverick. It has some great tools to deal with early aggression. It has some great life gain effects in Swords, Batterskull, Jide, and Scavenging Ooze. Our creatures can be bigger than, you know, X3s as well, so things like Searing, Blaze, and Bolt don't line up too well. And we have some pretty, you know, fast mana accelerants, which is nice. The deck's also pretty consistent, so that definitely helps against burn, where you want to be finding, you know, your equipment or your Scavenging Ooze or etc. This is a pretty nice hand. I get to work off basics. I have a Swords as backup, a Green Suns for Ooze, a big creature in Night, and Mum for protection. Another Grim. Okay. So there's an interesting consideration here to go after the Grim Lavamancer. And I think because I didn't draw a land there, I kind of want to. So I am just going to go for a basic here and Swords the Grim. Which, you know, I could keep the swords back. But what I could say is, if I play the Mum out and it takes 2 damage from the Grim, it's 2 damage not coming to me. But I'm going to put myself in a position where this Mum is going to do a lot of work against maybe like a Marauders and actually save 3 a turn, or maybe 6 over 2 turns. So I think that it's worth getting rid of their Grim there. And then next turn we can 2-spell with both Noble and Mum, which is really nice. I don't believe my opponent is playing anything like Forked Bolt either, so this is pretty nice. I think my best draw now would just be a fetch land, which will allow me to get another basic and make this knight a 4/4. My opponent does have up mana and a fetch land for Searing Blaze, which would be pretty good as an end step spell. We'll see what happens. Yeah, Searing Blaze pretty good. Deals 3 as 1 as well, and deals with the Mum. This could just be Sulfuric Vortex. Yeah. Okay. So we'll take 2 here. Dried Up is an interesting card. I am going to play it and then play Quisali, but hold up mana for it. What I want to do next then is probably just Green Suns for Scavenging Ooze, because I can eat the Mum. If I draw a land, I can also eat the Qasali Pride Mage. Swords. That's interesting as well, because I could Swords my own knight if I really needed to. Huh. I think I like Green Suns for Ooze, but it's tough. I think it is Green Suns for Ooze, and probably hold up the Noble to hold up both Swords and gain life. I think the best draw my opponent has here is probably a Vortex. So this is actually an interesting spot, because I could tap out to make this a 3/3, or I could just untap and have up 3 green mana, which would allow me to play around Bolt. And I think I am just going to play around Bolt here. Sword's a pretty nice draw. So now I have the option of play Knight and hold up again, Scoos and Swords. Which I think is okay, because I feel like my opponent is going to deal with this Scoos in a way. And then I want another beater to keep keep clocking them with. I don't mind just trying to see if... Because if we eat the Mum here, it's nice we have Exalted. I think that works in our favor. So if we eat Mum and they try to bolt it, we can then respond with Qasali Pride Mage. Nothing from my opponent. Okay. The nice thing we have here as well is 2 green mana to eat Qasali Pride Mage. So if they respond to the first eat with a Bolt-on Ooze as a 3/3, we can then build it up again to a 4/4 by eating the same Qasali Pride Mage, and then allowing the Bolt to resolve, which will just have 3 damage marked and a 4/4 Ooze. I feel like my opponent has at least 1 Smash to Smithereens in hand as well, so I don't feel like going for a sword here is correct. If we untap and have access to 5 mana. And if they have some sort of nuts like Fire Blast, Bolt or something, we can eat, get the same Qasali Pride Mage, and then go for swords on the Scavenging Ooze to survive. Which is an interesting play. They have a land, okay. Rift Bolt, target me. And then they have 1 card left, which at best can be Fire Blast, so I'm happy for this to resolve. I actually don't mind eating in response, because they only have the one card up. Still no creatures in the bin, so let's go to attacks first. Apologies. This puts them down to 8. So now I can play the Knight. So what beats me? Price into... No, Fire Blast into Fire Blast. And I can beat that with Swords My Own Knight. So I'm not going to play the land here either. Let's have a quick... We have time. We have heaps of time. So let's quickly look at this and get it right. Because my opponent currently has 1 card in hand. The deck doesn't play another way to gain another card. They can't draw into cards. So what I'm looking at is probably just double Fire Blast as their way out of this. But luckily, we have Swords Our Own Creature. So nothing else here is really relevant. So I might as well play the land, because even if they price me, it's still going to be 4. And the land means I can keep the Knight alive as a 4/4. Thankfully, we can also untap if we draw a land and play Sword of Fire and Ice. Or we can actually use Knight to get Cradle. But there's also just, you know, attack them. Tough spot for my opponent because, yeah, Fire Blast me to 3 and then pass does nothing because we have lethal in play. and we can respond to the second spell as damage. So I'm not sure what gets him out of this. I'm not even sure if like Kedron Marauders does it. Obviously because we have the Sword of Fire and Ice, and we can untap, equip it to the Skoos, attack with Exalted for 7 and then deal 2 to them and still hold up swords into Night. So I think we luckily have the lock here and we are going to get out of this. But really interesting. I think that, you know, Burn is a good matchup, but it has some really good play to it. There's some really good back and forth. And obviously it is pretty tight. There are some games where you're like, oof, that was a lot tighter than I thought it would be. But opponent really thinking about their play, and you know, kudos to them. You don't want to make a mistake. If there is a line, then you want to make sure that you've thought it through. Canonist. Artifact, artifact, artifact. I don't believe I want to play it here. They're at 8. 5, 6, 7. I think it is just attack with everything except the noble. Which is lethal, which kind of makes them have to Fire Blast the Knight. I guess playing this Canonist isn't the worst, because if they smash it, it's a creature I can eat through the Scavenging Ooze. The question is, wow, okay, lucky. Close games, really close games. I mean, Fire Blast on Night there does kill it. Ah, price. Okay. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's really interesting. Cool. Nice to get back on the win streak. If you enjoyed this content, let me know. Let me know in chat if you found a line that I didn't, that maybe could have got me the win sooner, or maybe not lost game 1. Maybe if you would have sideboarded differently. If you like pre-Innistrad content, I'd love to know that as well. And subscribe, 100%. A lot of my viewers aren't subscribed to my channel, which is obviously a free thing. You can sign up if you want notifications or not. So the grind to 1,000 subs is there, and you can be a part of it. So that'd be really cool. I'll see you for match 5. Thank you.